So, but for today, focus group discussion or interviewing, I'm going to first talk about what a focus group discussion is, the appropriateness of an FGD. So if you're thinking of, oh, should I use a focus group discussion or not? These are some of the things you want to look out for, like how appropriate focus group discussion is or will be to your data collection method. Like I said, FGD is a qualitative data collection method. There are several methods you can use to collect your data. You can go on our YouTube channel. We have over 50 videos on all topics you can think about in monitoring and evaluation. My colleagues will put in the channel, so you can go. I think we have a course there called Qualitative Data Collection Method. Qualitative Data Collection Method. And in there, you will find a description of all the qualitative data collection methods you can think about, including the focus group discussion. Thirdly, I'll talk about the characteristics of our focus group discussion. So, but not up to half. I've not done any, I've not moderated, I've not assisted. So we have quite a number of us that have moderated a session, an FGD before. So I think we can proceed then. Thank you, everyone, for responding to that. So, like you already know that, yes, especially, I mean, for those who might have not experienced an FGD before, a focus group discussion is always led by a moderator who normally guides participants to respond to specific set of questions, right? Specific set of focus questions, and in an environment that is accommodating and not threatening at all. So like your participants, yes, you've recruited them, you brought them into a room, and you have that moderator whose role is more or less like a facilitator for that conversation. And that's what we refer to as a focus group discussion. It is totally different from an individual interview, whereby there is the interviewer and the interviewee. So one-on-one kind of interview. So you interview one person, and that's an individual interview. You could carry out the interview via Zoom, just like we're doing with just one person. You could carry out the individual interview via face-to-face. So that's individual interview is separate. So it's not an individual interview. It's not an administration of a questionnaire whereby you self-administer questionnaire and you ask individuals' response to a series set of questions. It is not a group discussion. It is not a group discussion. A group discussion can bring different set of people or the same set of people, I mean, different set of people, and put them together and just ask some questions. So a focus group discussion is different from a group discussion. And I'll tell you in a bit why we refer to it as focus. So what are focus group discussions appropriate for? Most times we use it to actually understand, yes, needs, assets. So when you're doing formative evaluation, needs assessment, you want to use a focus group discussion. You might decide to use a focus group discussion when you want to understand the needs of people and also the assets within their community or assets they are looking for. So you can actually use a focus group discussion. You can also use it to understand how people feel, think about one product, a service. Very, very important. So if you have a 2-year program that focuses on smallholder farmers, you can, for you to understand what they feel about your program, you can decide to use a focus group discussion, and a focus group discussion with people with homogeneous characteristics. I'm going to come there in a bit. So you could do that. If you want to understand the behavior of, let's say, women groups that were part of your program, maybe a change in behavior that your program might have caused, a focus group discussion might be an important data collection method that you want to use. If you want to understand how people feel about using that borehole that was sank, or that water facility that was provided for that community, you could use a focus group discussion as well. If you want to understand how people feel about your online courses, your online discussions, you could use a focus group discussion as well. It is also good when you are testing an instrument, an idea, a campaign, or a product. And this is very important, almost like the #1 point. But you have an idea, you have a product, and you want to launch, you want to provide it to a community, you want to provide it to a particular group. For example, a toolkit for young people on, for example, political participation, or for a toolkit for young graduates to be able to proceed in their career, you might want to use a focus group discussion. And in that sense, you have developed a draft of that product, and you want to have different groups discuss about that product that you just shared with them. What do they think? How do they feel? What do they think is missing? How can that product be improved? You can use a focus group discussion for that. Then, in evaluating how products, programs are working, how they might be improved, of course. So if you have provided incentives for smallholder farmers, maybe improve seedlings for them to use on their various farms, you might want to think about using a focus group discussion to know what's working and what's not working, right? You can, if you are providing extension services, for example, to smallholder farmers, and you want to know the effectiveness or the efficiency of the work of those extension workers or the extension services, you can design a focus group discussion with the smallholder farmers. Same things with a program that focuses on improving teacher relationship with pupils or with students. You might also want to understand what's working and what's not working. You might want to pull together a focus group discussion that has these groups of teachers in a focus group discussion. So these are some of the things you might want to consider if you are planning to use a focus group discussion. Of course, there are more other things you want to think about for focus group discussion to be appropriate, or thinking about the appropriateness of the focus group discussion. It's something you need to you might need to think about. But I move to the characteristics of focus group discussions. And these are some of the things you have to look out for, especially if you are going to proceed. If you find that, oh, focus group discussion is important and fine with you. So these are some of the characteristics, like things you might want to look out for. The questions are focused on a key topic of study. In this video, this video will be posted on YouTube. In the description of the video, you will see in the video that will be shared with you, you will see a sample FGD question, FGD guide. We call it a guide, the focus group discussion guide. You will see it in the video description on YouTube when we share with you. And if you're watching it on YouTube, just check the description. You will find a sample focus group discussion guide, which is what you take to the field or to the room where you as the moderator carries out the focus group discussion. Yes, questions are always focused on a key topic. It could be migration. It could be what your beneficiaries feel about the migration topic or the migration program. It could be what teachers feel about the inclusive education program. It could be what women groups feel about your program on women empowerment or business setup for women. It could be a topic on what spouse, what the husband feels about the wife, especially as it concerns your topic on women empowerment, gender equity, right? So the questions are always focused on a key topic, right? Then as a moderator, because one of the skills you need to have if you want to moderate a focus group discussion is being a good facilitator. That's a super skill you need to have. For example, you have 8 people, 9 people. When it gets to 12 people, you need to be able to control the room and to not push for either an agreement or consensus. No. So focus group discussion is not necessarily meant for people to come to an agreement, for all participants to come to an agreement or consensus. No. So, and also note is not for debate purposes, right? But majorly it is for people to freely communicate how they feel, what they think about the subject matter. And so that's a characteristics where which a moderator must look out for. Of course, the environment is very conducive. People are sitting down in a place where they can speak. You must make sure as a moderator to inform participants. I mean, there's always this long introduction into focus group discussion that you need to mention. And in the guide that we're going to put in the YouTube video, if you're watching it in the description, you would also see that introduction guide where you need to mention to the participants why you're doing the focus group discussion, the purpose of it, what will happen to the discussion, if you're using a recorder, if you're recording, how are you going to do the analysis, that you're not going to mention each person, that you will keep the data or the information strictly to yourself, and you will protect each person that speaks about what they feel, their perception about the topic you're talking about. So you need to create that environment. It's very, very important. It's like an housekeeping that you normally do, right? And it's very important. It's a key, I think is a key part of moderating a focus group discussion because you don't know where all your participants have come from. And you as a moderator was brought in because most times somebody invites them, right? So you need to create that atmosphere for people to be able to speak. And yes, so participants are homogeneous. So it could be by, so you can have, so you need to have in a focus group, and I think this is the most important part. We call it screens. You want to have different screens in your focus group discussion. In a program, you can have 4 different groups. So one group would be male participants whose age are between 18 and 25. That is one group. You can have another group, male participants or male beneficiaries whose age are between 26 and maybe 45. That's another group, 2 groups. You can have a third group, female participants or beneficiaries whose age are between 18 and 25. Then you have a 4th group, female participants or beneficiaries whose age are between 26 and 45. So in each group, they have to be of the same characteristics, right? And I've just, you can think about, I've used age and I use sex in the example I gave. You can think about people of the same race, people of the same ethnicity, people of the same category, people of the same teams. People think about, okay, maybe people that have been under the influence of drugs for the past 4 years, or those that have been under the influence of drugs for after 5 years. So you need to think about that. So each group, each participant in each group needs to have almost the same characteristics, right? And that's how you figure out those groups, because when you're doing analysis, you want to, so if you have 4 groups, you want to look at what these different groups are saying as it concerns your program, the product, the service, the intervention, you know, so you can compare how they see it in terms of their characteristics. And, you know, when you do an FGD before, as part of a formative evaluation, then it means you want to answer the question of target groups, like which groups should we target with our programs? Very, very important and key. Number 5 points also, very, very important. Think about, yes, I mean, you can have focus group discussions that have 4 to 12 participants, yes, 4 to 12 participants in each group. So, but there are some things you need to consider, right? When you have a larger group that is around 9 to 12, you want to think about the timing for the moderator. Most times it is 1 hour to 1 hour 30 minutes. So when you have 9 to 12, it means you have more people. And one characteristics of a good focus group discussion is that all the participants speak their mind. So if you look at a group of 12, it means you want people, all the 12, to speak. If you multiply it by the time, if each person will speak for 5 minutes, times 5 questions, you need to consider your timing. So, so you need to think about that. Like, is this a large group? The number of questions that I have, will I be able to achieve or get more information from them with that little time? So you need to think about time, the groups that you have, how many are they? You know, so we normally say that, yes, for a group of 9 to 12, yeah, if you think about consumer, people buying products or services you want to get, so you can use 9 to 12. You can have a group that has 9 to 12 participants in that FGD. But if you're talking about sensitive topics like crime, like ethnicity, like racism, very super sensitive, you don't want to have a large group. You might want to have a smaller group. Also, topics that are experts related, you want to have a smaller group. You don't need a large number for you to get the inferences that you need, or for you to get for you to observe properly or get results. So you want to keep the group smaller in that case. And these are very important for you, especially because sensitive, personal, expert topics, sensitive topics is hard to recruit people for such topics. So I would not necessarily see you going for the upper band of 12. You would want to, for example, a topic on inmates, for example, that is sensitive. How would you recruit inmates in your focus group discussion? If you want to talk about, if part of your topic is focused on gender violence, for example, whichever gender you're talking about, it's difficult for you to get people. So you might want to limit the number of participants, right? So, so that's group size for you if you're thinking about the group. So, like I said earlier on, you want to look at patterns, you want to look at the trends. And in looking at, so patterns and trends across these different groups. So like I said, perhaps groups of 4 for your focus group discussion. You want to look at what this group A is talking about, and this is related to analysis. What is group A talking about this question the most? And in group A also, are we having people that are disagreeing with this other set of people versus another group on what they are saying and what they are disagreeing on in that group? You know, you want to look at those patterns and trends in your analysis across the different groups. And that is what makes a focus group discussion tick, right? So looking at the patterns, looking at trends from each of the groups. Of course, I can say this more again, the group is guided by a skillful moderator. You don't want one person out of 5 to be talking and answering the questions. That's not a good focus group discussion. Rather, you should have done an individual interview. Like I said, you want all the participants to speak. And you don't want one participant to talk over another person. You don't want to have a silent person in your focus group discussion. Normally, when we look at transcripts from a focus group discussion, we want to see that, oh, you have all participants speaking. That's a good focus group discussion. But your work as the moderator must be cognizant of the person that is not speaking and be able to direct questions at the person like, oh, so what do you think about that? Do we have anyone who have not spoken yet who wants to speak? Would you like to speak? You've not spoken. What do you think? You know, so it makes the person put out his or her own idea as well. And you don't necessarily want all of them to be agreeing on a question, right? That makes it look like, this group seems to be saying the same thing. So recently I was involved in a focus group discussion back to back, almost focus every quarter. There's this focus group discussion every quarter. It's a long-term evaluation. We had the first focus group discussion. The groups almost say the same thing. The second one, the group say this. So each participant in a group would say the same thing. They will follow the same response. We then felt, no, we are not getting the right answer. On the third one, we need to do individual interviews because it seems there's a group thing, there's a similar group thing. So people, and that's something to be careful about. especially in some contexts, like our own context, where people want to follow the group. So that's something to think about when you are choosing a focus group discussion, right? Good. I think on that note, I will wrap up this conversation at the moment and give time for questions, discussions, reflection. What do you think? What have you done? Do you think what we have said is like your own? Or what are you thinking at the moment? Do you have something you're thinking about? Like, why should you pick a focus group discussion? So if you have questions, please, you can use the chat box if you cannot speak, but I can call out people if you can raise your hand. I can call out people if you can raise your hands up and ask questions, or if you have comments. Again, some of our videos are on YouTube already. Please go to our YouTube channel. My colleague already posted it. Think about any video, and it's just been posted. I just posted it on the chat box. We have over 50 trainings already on evaluation, demonstration, practical. You should go there, check out any of the videos. And you can even come back to us and send us training at cloneshouse.com if there's a topic you haven't seen. So I'm going to call out people once you, if you have questions, I will call out you. I'm already looking at people that have their hands up, so I can call them. You can also put your questions in the chat box. But before then, guys, I recommend this book. Very, very good book. Made sense out of it. If you want to become an evaluator, after Arcane, if you're just starting, you might want to look at Arcane, which is an introduction to evaluation. But if you dip into evaluation, but I mean, this is also for beginners. The Handbook of Practical Program Evaluation is a very good book. You would learn a whole lot about focus group discussion, putting together your questions, characteristics, some of the things we've mentioned here. I think this is the one you're seeing on your screen is the newest edition. So please, you can get it on Amazon if you want. And I think maybe some of our courses have the e-version of it as well that can be shared. So I encourage us to get that book. It's on Amazon. Just go to amazon.com, type it, and you will find the book, Handbook of Practical Program Evaluation by Hatry, and Wholey.